Hey everybody, this is the Aggressively Medium podcast with Josh.
Episode 118.
Hey.
And we're still bleeping out Lee's name in the intro because I haven't had time to do anything.
That's man.
Yeah. But so how's your week been, Derek?
It's been good, man. Been busy.
Yeah.
But been good. Got a lot going on right now. What about you?
Same. Just same. Just every single day there's something. I'm getting home at like 9:30, 10 o'clock every night. That's kind of stinking. Mm-hmm. Like all the kids are in bed. Everybody's in bed.
That sucks.
Yeah, it does. But it's only for a short amount of time. So, yeah. That's a good segue into business talk.
Yes, it is. That was a really good one.
It wasn't even intentional. But yeah, so I'm still doing Cheese Louise, and I'm starting to get to the point of the part of the business that I really like. Like, I'm not a super big fan of like the starting the businesses, like from the ground floor. I mean, it is fun, but that's not my favorite part. My favorite part is the management, the logistics, the leadership stuff. That's what I really enjoy.
Yeah.
And we were talking about that earlier, and you were like, I'm not a fan.
No, I hate the logistics side. Yeah.
Why do you hate the logistics side of it?
So it's just, I think it's because I'm severely ADD. And so the details is not something I focus on.
Yeah.
Hey, let's cast vision. Let's develop leaders. Let's put people in place to achieve goals and then empower them and let them do the details.
Yeah.
I don't care how you get there as long as you get there.
Yeah.
And then maybe, periodically, once a quarter or so, we can sit down and say, okay, show me how you're getting there. And is that the most efficient way?
Yeah.
Yada, yada. So that's my passion.
Yeah. You look at it from like the 10,000 feet view, and you're like, this is what you need to focus. And I can see where that is very helpful.
Yeah.
And I was saying I like the logistics side of it because it's like it's the same reason I think that I like jiu-jitsu and rock climbing is because there's a problem in front of me and I have to find a solution to it, and it's my solution.
Yeah.
I'm not a big like math guy. Like I hate math because it's like there's a set of rules that you have to follow to find the answer.
And you want to do
the
it your
question.
own way.
I want to do it my own way. Like, that's probably why I'm not good at math very much, but I'm good with numbers, just not math.
Yeah,
if
and
that makes sense.
I like that stuff too. What I mean by the logistics side of it, like I don't like making a schedule of employees, like who's going to work when, or I don't like that side of it.
Yeah.
Making sure that the food gets ordered, or we call this place to schedule this. Like that's the stuff that I don't like. When it comes to I love trying to figure stuff out. Like to me, that's part of the hustle. Like I love trying to figure out, if I'm going to buy a property, I love trying to figure out, okay, how do I come up with the money?
Yeah.
Like, I can't get a traditional mortgage. Okay, let's figure out another way to make it work. And just, I'm not going to say
how can I find it? Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's the whole Robert Kiyosaki, the Robert Kawasaki ninja, he's like, there's always like the answer or the question is not like, can I do this? It's how can I do it? Like, it's if you want to do something, then find the way to do it. Don't just sit there and be like, well, I can't do XYZ now.
Don't say I can't afford it. Say how can I afford it?
There it is. Yeah, that's what he says, and I couldn't remember.
I'm a
what
big
it was.
fan.
Yeah, Robert Kawasaki.
I don't think I'm ever going to call him anything other than Kawasaki.
I can't ever.
That never
do it either.
clicked with me, but that's perfect.
It's in my brain constantly.
Yep.
But yeah, it's. I'm finally getting into that, and we were talking too about like the business and like when it gets to the tough stuff. And I don't think that you are a true business owner when things are going well. Or like it's the fun stuff, because to me that's it's
easy.
It's easy, and it's a hobby that gives you some income.
Yeah.
But when the stuff gets hard and when you start getting burnt out and you're like, I'm tired of this, I don't want to do it anymore, that's when like the rubber meets the road. and like you find yourself in like that's where businessmen like stand out.
Yeah. Well, and so I don't know that that's. I look at it from a different angle. I think I look at it from if I get burned out on a business, that just means that my interests have changed more than likely, and so that may not be a bad thing because if I've set my business up the right way, I've empowered other people to lead.
Yeah, for sure.
Then I can say, okay, I'm burnt out on this, so I'm going to step away.
Yeah.
I'm going to let you run it, and I'm going to go do this other thing.
Absolutely.
And that's now if you can't do that, like if you work a 9-to-5 job and you have to have that job to support your income or to support your family, like and you get burned out on it, tough. Get up and go to work.
Tough titties.
You have to, yeah. But use that as motivation to figure out how to get out of the rat race. How do I, how do I build up enough passive income so that I don't have to work this 9-to-5
Absolutely.
anymore?
Yeah. And even within your 9-to-5, if you have another passion that you want to pursue, like for me, it was, or not necessarily passion, but like something else that you want to do. Like, I don't like this career that I'm in. Well, for me, I was working at the Tuscaloosa News, and it was like, well, it's this place. I don't like this place. I don't want to work here, but I worked there for like 4 years. But in the meantime, I was like going to night classes. Like I would leave work at 5, be at night class at like 6:30, and then be there till like 9 or 10 at night. And it's like you have to find. There's always a way to get out of whatever you're doing.
Absolutely.
Without dropping your responsibilities, because that's another big portion of it. It's like. To me, it irks me when somebody's like, "Hey, we'll use an example. Hey, I want to start a food truck. This is not pointed or directed at anybody, but it's like it doesn't even have to be food truck. Hey, I want to start a clothing business. Okay, I'm stopping. I quit my 9-to-5, and I'm going to focus on this solely right now. And it's like, bro. You've got a mortgage, you've got a water bill, you've got a light bill. You can't afford to do that.
Yeah.
You can grind after 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
And make stuff happen.
Absolutely.
The weekends are free as can be. And so that's like that irks me when somebody's like, I'm throwing all my eggs in this basket. It's like, hold on, man. Like, don't burn the bridges that you don't have to.
Yeah. But also another side of that is don't let that keep you from hustling after 5 and on the weekends. Like
Absolutely.
That when people say, oh, it must be nice to have, like I started with nothing.
Yeah.
Like I grew up in a single wide trailer with my mom, my grandma, and my brother. Like we had nothing. But I hustled like, and Gary V, love him and hate him, but he goes around and does the yard sale.
Yeah.
Yard sale arbitrage where he buys stuff and flips it. Like you can do that.
Yeah.
You can go create an Amazon seller account. I'm teaching my son how to do that right now. He's, started this flipping used books on Amazon.
Yeah.
And he's only had, a couple of days to work on it, but he's made, pretty good money. And his goal is to build up some money, leave it in the bank, and then use that money to fund
Legos.
To buy Legos. No, to fund so he was like, I want to save up and buy a car with it. And I was like, okay, you could do that.
Dang,
I said, or you could buy a rental house and then let the cash flow from the rental house make your car payment instead of paying cash for your car. Yeah. And then once your car's paid off, now you have a cash flow
income.
Yeah. And so it's, and I'm trying to teach him to think like that. And it's really cool because he's really, I think he's kind of gotten bit by the entrepreneurial bug. And
that's awesome.
I love seeing it. I hope it sticks, but people that say, "Oh, it must be nice. I can't afford that. I can't do." Well, I couldn't afford it either.
Yeah.
And that, but I found a way to make it happen.
Absolutely.
And you don't need to go to a business college to learn how to start a business. Like you're going to learn some useful stuff there, sure, but YouTube is free.
Yeah.
Like get on there.
There's so many resources out there.
My gosh, it's incredible. And so, people that say, "Oh, I can't, I've got a 9-to-5, I don't have time." That's bull crap.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and like it does make it a lot harder when you start having a family and stuff like that, which I understand that. I get that. But the other thing is there was this author, his name's John Acuff. He wrote the book, Stuff Christians Like. Hilarious book. He's went on to write a bunch more books, but when he was writing stuff Christian likes, he had a 9 to 5, and he was doing like work at night and stuff like that, like writing at night. And his wife was like, "You're not giving us any time."
Yeah.
And so he said, the one thing that I found out is nobody cares about 4 to 8, like 4 a.m. to 8 a.m.
Yeah.
Nobody cares about that time. Like if my wife's asleep, she doesn't care that I'm in the other room writing a book. Like, so there's always time during the day, but like everything that requires anything is going to require a sacrifice.
Absolutely.
And so you've got to find where that sacrifice is and make it. I mean,
yeah.
And it sucks. It sucks bad. I mean, for like the past 2 weeks, I've been on the food truck every single night of the week.
Right.
So much so that like my son was like, told my wife the other day, I miss dad.
Yeah.
And
sucks.
then the other day I was putting him to bed. It was Sunday night. I was putting him to bed and he was like, "I'll see you in the morning." And I was like, "No, I'll be gone or you'll be gone before I wake up or whatever." Cause they were going to school that day. He was like, "Okay, I'll see you in the afternoon." And I was like, "I'll be on the food truck." And he was like, "So I'm not going to see you at all?" And I was like,
dang.
But make it count.
Yeah.
If you're going to do something, make it count. This is only like a short time frame until I get enough workers, which hopefully will be by the end of this week. I'll be good to go and I can drop like 50% of what I'm doing. And then from there, it'll just be texting people.
Yeah.
Or like making sure that people are where they need to be and stuff like that.
And that's cool. Like the age he's at now, because he's what, 7?
Yeah.
So
That'd be 8.
he might remember some of this, but like I don't have any memories before
Yeah.
like probably 10 years old.
I don't have a ton of them.
Yeah.
I don't have a ton of memories from the past 10 years though either. So
Yeah.
I forget a lot of stuff.
Me too. But I'm saying that like now he's going to be able to, you're building this up for him and he's going to reap the rewards from it later down the road, but he's not going to remember the few months where dad wasn't around as much because he was building it, but then, once he gets to that point, then, y'all will have plenty of money that you can buy your wife gifts.
Yeah. Good point. Speaking of gifts, what's the best gift you've ever given your wife?
All right, so let's see if I can find a picture of it. So we,
big music people.
yes. So my wife and I, when we got married, we were going through and trying to create a playlist for our wedding. And so when we finally kind of locked in the playlist, these are the songs we wanted, yada, yada. I had the idea that I'm going to make her, because I bought her a record player as a wedding gift. That's kind of what she wanted. And so I came up with the idea to get the playlist, our wedding playlist, made into a vinyl record.
Yeah.
I used our engagement photo shoot, those pictures, to design a record cover.
Yeah.
I printed it out, or had FedEx Kinko's printed out. And I found this company that would do a one-off vinyl record.
Yeah.
And so I had all of our playlists burned onto a vinyl record and gave her that with a record player.
And have the album art as
our engagement photo
photo
shoot.
and everything. Yeah.
I don't know if you can see that.
That's probably way too close.
Yep.
If you put it like right here, it'll
Okay.
be, yeah.
I can.
There you go.
And I'll send it to you. You can throw. I don't know if you can put a picture of it on the video. But,
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, that's probably the coolest thing I've ever given my wife.
It's a pretty awesome gift.
I was proud of it.
Yeah.
I was like, man, I'm a baller.
Yeah.
And
for
then-
sure.
Yeah. What about you?
Mine's not as cool. The story is a little bit cooler than the actual gift. Okay. So this was our either first or second Christmas as a married couple. And Meg had been talking about wanting a like a Peloton style bike. And I was looking them up, and like Peloton stuff's super high. And so I was like, well, maybe there's like some Amazon knockoffs or like some lesser brands.
Yeah.
Like, and so I started looking at, and I'm like a real big review guy. Like I'll go through and find reviews of products, and like I probably did 6-7 hours of research on these exercise bikes.
Really?
Yeah, and I finally found one. It was this weird brand. I'd never heard of it before, but it had all these great reviews. Everybody's like, this is like a top of the line thing for like a third of the price. And so I ended up buying it. Well, so Christmas Eve night rolls around, right? And I got to put this bike together. And so I told my wife, I said, hey, look, I'm going to go into the shed and I'm going to wrap all your gifts. I'm going to get everything ready and wrap all your gifts. So I was in there wrapping gifts, but then I was also putting the bike together. And it took about 3 hours to like fully do everything.
Wow.
And this is Christmas Eve night. So I come in and she is pissed. She was like, I thought you were only going to be gone like an hour. You know, this is family time. Like we need to be doing this and that. And so she's just like dogging me. Like she thought that I was in there just hanging out and playing. And which I wasn't. I was wrapping gifts and stuff. So then the next morning rolls around, and this was like a pretty expensive gift for us, especially at the time. But I didn't want that to be the only thing that I gave her. Right. And so I bought her all these like little gifts and stuff. And she opens all of her presents. I open all my presents, and you could see the look of like kind of like disappointment on her face.
Oh, well, that sucks.
That like this was all that she was getting. But I had the exercise bike outside. We had a gate that goes outside. And so I was going to get her at the end of it to open the gate. I was going to like, I got all the wrapping paper and stuff put together. And I told her, I said, hey, can you go unlock the gate for me so I can bring this out there? And then I'm going to burn it all in like a burn barrel. And she was like giving it to me. She was like, why do you need me to open the gate? You don't need me to open the gate. Blah, blah, blah. Like going on and on and on. And I finally looked at her and I said, just go open the gate. That's all I'm telling you. And then so she goes out there and she sees the bike at the gate and starts freaking out. And I was like, this is like, I've gotten so much grief over the past 24 hours. And here it is right here. Stop. Like
that's hilarious.
And but yeah, it was pretty good.
That's funny. I did something similar to that with my wife. Christmas before last, I think it was. She really wanted a couch. Yeah. And it was like
the one you bought from me. I'm just kidding.
I should have. No, it was really expensive. So I was like, no, there's no way we can afford that. Yada yada. Yeah. And so I bought her a Dyson hairdryer because that was like $300, I think. And so it's like that's an expensive gift. Yeah. So but then I also surprised her with the couch. So she was.
I love pulling pranks like that.
Yep.
I'll tell you who has given my wife a better gift than me. Biden.
Yes, he has.
He has given my wife a $10,000 present.
But is it a better gift, really?
So for us, we're in a different situation than most people. We have she has student loans, a substantial amount. But if she works for if she's a public servant for 10 years and makes 10 years of qualifying payments, then it's 100% forgiven. And so she's about 7 years in to her teaching right now, and she's made about 7 years worth of payments. And so we've only got a couple more years till hopefully all that's gone. I have heard some horror stories from that stuff that like it doesn't get forgiven.
Yeah, I've heard that.
But I also have a neighbor who has gotten his forgiven working as a teacher.
Oh, that's cool.
And so, we got our fingers crossed on that one. So like the 10 grand worth of the student debt stuff is cool, but it didn't move the needle for us because we're looking at down the road, it's going to get completely forgiven anyway. Yeah. We're making like like $300 payment a month. And it would take like 1,000 years for us to like pay back whatever it is.
Sure.
But yeah.
Yeah. So I paid my student loans off.
But I did as well.
They weren't federal student loans though. Mine were private, so it wouldn't have affected them anyway. But
I had a little bit of both.
Okay.
But it wasn't a substantial amount.
So Danielle had, when we got married, around 30,000.
Must be nice.
And well, that was for a lot of that was for cosmetology school, and she's doesn't have a cosmetology license anymore. But the majority of it, I think, was for Highlands College too.
Yeah.
So she does have an associate's degree for that. But
Nice.
but no, so we've been paying it down, every month, and then when the moratorium hit, where you didn't have to pay it anymore and it wouldn't accrue interest, we're like, hold up, 0% interest. We're gonna pay a lot on this thing. So we just kept making our normal payments though, and we kind of paid it down to $20,500 and something, and she got Pell Grants too. So she's actually going to get.
She got the 20 then.
20 then, and so it's like, okay, cool, that's great, right?
Yeah.
I still wish they wouldn't have done it. It's going to make me like owe $20,000 less.
Yeah.
But it's going to inflate the dollar so much, or it's going to the value of the dollar is going to go down because of it's going to offset to where it's horrible. Like,
yeah, I also have mixed feelings about it. I've got mixed feelings within my mixed feelings. Like, I am all for helping people out.
Sure.
Like, that's my I love the fact that we're doing, because, and here's the like big picture for me is student loans have become very predatory. I mean, there's no way on this earth that it should cost over 20 to 30 grand to get a degree, when in all actuality it's way more,
4 times that.
Yeah, exactly. And so you're making these 17 and 18-year-old kids sign on the dotted line that says like, hey, you owe us X amount of dollars at the end of this. And at 17 and 18, you have no concept of that. No. Like, when I got out of high school, I thought if I could make $30,000 a year,
you're set.
That I would be rich. Because granted, I came from less than that.
Yeah.
But I was like, in my head too, it's like, even if I just put half of whatever I make onto a student loan, I was like, I'll have it paid off in like 2-3 years, man. And like, that is such an idiotic thing now. Yeah. Like, there's no way I could put half of my paycheck on anything other than maybe my mortgage.
You know? Probably not even that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's like, these kids don't have the capacity to think through that.
Well, they don't know what they don't know.
Exactly.
And I don't think it's a problem necessarily with the student loan companies. I think it's more of a problem with the schools and our culture. So our culture is, you have to go to school. Like, you go to high school. Once you graduate high school, you immediately go to college for at least 4 years. You don't know what you want to do. Well, you'll figure it out. And
you'll figure it out while you're in college.
Yeah. And I did a poll on Facebook several months ago where I asked, if you have a degree, what is your degree and what is your job? And 80% of the people that have a degree do not have a job in their field.
Of course.
And so I think our culture, I think there's kind of a twofold problem. So you've got that, and then you've got these schools who are jacking the price of tuition up, and you've got
to pay for stuff that's not necessary.
You got, and then Elizabeth Warren charged Harvard $400,000 to teach a class. Yeah, like, so I don't know. I'm not a fan of college. I tell my kids, hey, you do not have to go to college. Like, I've even started my 5-year-old. She just started kindergarten, and she was asking me about, like, what's after kindergarten, and I started talking to her about elementary school and then high school, and she said, what's after high school? And I said, well, some people go to college. You can go to college, but you don't have to. And so we kind of start talking through that. But I don't want my kids to feel like they have to go to college. Yeah. Like, if they want to go to college and they can tell me, hey, Dad, I'm going to go to college. I want to be a doctor. I'll pay for that. Yeah. If they want to say, hey,
I'm going to go do business.
I'm going to go get a business degree. I'm not going to pay for that. Yeah. Like, you don't need an MBA. I can't tell you how many people I've interviewed to work for my insurance agency that have MBAs. I've not hired a single one of them. Yeah. Because they don't have the motivation, the drive, the hunger that it takes to be successful in business. And they have an MBA because their dad told them to go get an MBA. Yeah. I'm not telling my kids to go get an MBA. So I was going to school at Bama. I went to Bama for 2.5 years. Hated it. Yeah. It was miserable. At a certain point while I was going to Bama, I realized that, because I kept getting like contract jobs, I would like be out on tour and like
have to go be at class on Monday or whatever. And like I'd be doing installs or whatever, video work. And I was like, I'm making more money than it's costing me to go to school. And so why don't I just stop going to school, and then I'll invest a year's worth of my time into developing this craft. And so I dropped out of Bama and was going to an internship in Oklahoma and did that for a year. When I said that I was going to do that, my family had essentially what was like a
intervention.
Legit. Like they were like, you're wasting your time. Like you're going to be a failure if you don't go to college. You're going to like this and that and this and that. And I'm just sitting there and I'm like,
did any of them go to college?
No.
So
one person did. Okay. And that's what, like, I brought it all back to like my older brother. I was like, hey, look, I was like, you went to fire college. That's not like, I'm doing more work, like more schooling for a year's worth than you did for fire college. I was like, and you're fine, right? Like everything's good. And like there have been some instances where it's like, you know, so like this is like big picture right now, when I'm trying to like, if I was like ever thinking about getting another job, I would probably need some sort of certificate or degree. But like also all the fire college stuff that I'm getting is just as good in some industries as a regular degree, because it's very focused. It's very like oriented into a specific thing. And so I don't know, man. I have a problem with how much it costs, and the way that these kids are being lured into it. And so like I think it would help a majority of America. Like you free up all that money that like they owe, and like it'll start freeing up money to be spent places. Granted, the money is still going to be valued at less than it was before, but you're going to have a lot more extra income out there for a lot of people. And I'm conservative, but I also have some liberalistic viewpoints. Like, and this is one thing that was like highly contested between me and Lee. Like, we're not going to get into it today because it'll be a whole episode of a podcast that we don't have time for. But universal health care. God, look, it is the one thing that is a life-saving thing that that isn't ran by the government in some form or fashion. If your house is on fire, I don't pull up and I'm like, do you have fire insurance? Oh, I'm sorry. Well, we're packing. Hey guys, pack it back up. Like an intruder doesn't come into your home and like while you're on the phone with 911 and the police pull up outside your house, you're like, do you have the theft policy? Oh, well, we'll come back after they've shot you and collect the body. You know, and like that's the part that I have the issue with, is like I can either, because I've seen a bunch of documentaries on this stuff and done some research, and it's like there are people out there, and these are people that had insurance who like get cancer and their insurance is like, oh, that was a pre-existing condition, we're not going to cover that. And it's like I can either go into massive amounts of debt, like hundreds of thousands of dollars. We're not talking about student debt anymore. We're talking about big numbers. I can go into hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt and stay alive, or I don't go in debt that cripples my entire family and I just die. It's like, how are we okay with this? So I am very fiercely against universal health care. That's fine. For a long list of reasons. Yeah. But if you think about it, if I get in a car wreck and I'm unconscious, what are they going to do? They're going to take me to the emergency room, right? Yeah. They're going to treat me, right? I'm going to rack up a big bill, but I'm going to get the health care that I need. Yeah. Nobody's going to talk. And that's part of the Hippocratic Oath, is that you don't, like, if somebody's dying, you don't deny them health care just because they can't pay you. So to say that I can't get the care that I need is just not true. Like you can get, if you've got, and that's why a lot of people will go to the emergency room when they have the flu or something like that, which that's a very like, don't do that. Exactly. Yeah. So, you know,
it's not like they can't get the care they need. Now, are they going to rack up a huge bill? Absolutely. But did you know that there are companies out there who are contracted by the hospital to find grant money to cover medical bills? My brother used to work for one at UAB, and his sole job was somebody racks up a big medical bill and their income is not enough to support it, to pay it. Yeah, he'll call them and say, "Hey, I'm here to help you get this paid." Yeah, and they might have to send in some like tax returns or just some kind of, but that's all they do because these companies do it for them, and those companies take a small percentage of the money, the grant money. That's how they operate. Yeah, and so it's just not needed. Like people, and if you go to places that have healthcare, look at Canada, for example, they have healthcare, universal healthcare. Their healthcare sucks. Why do those people come down here to get surgeries done? Because they can't get them done up there because there's a waiting list.
So some of the current systems are horrible. Like
I'm not saying
the universal healthcare. Yeah, and that's my big thing is like I think there needs to be a widespread reform on these issues. But I also don't think that some of these places are as bad as the talking heads make them out to be. Like the UK and Canada and places like that. People aren't just like in droves coming to the US from UK and Canada to get healthcare stuff done.
Guarantee you a lot more come from there to here than go from here to there.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like
I'm sure they do.
Not even close.
But it's almost like a necessity in the US that you have health insurance. And so you're
not. It's a law.
Yeah. So you're
and
not.
And that's another thing. If you can't afford it, you can get health insurance for free.
Yeah. Without going back into like diving off into it, because like we've got some other stuff we got to talk about. But I definitely think there needs to be reform. You agree there needs to be some sort of reform as well.
I think the government needs to get out of it.
Entirely?
Entirely. There is not, maybe for like Medicare and Medicaid, it needs to be like hugely reformed.
Yeah.
I can see a case for that, for having those programs. But other than that, like name one thing the government does well.
Firefighting.
Like that's
military.
No, like they do them well, but let me rephrase that. Name one thing the government does efficiently. Firefighting, maybe. I don't know anything about the firefighting industry, but if you look at the military, they piss away so much money.
Sure.
So I was in the Navy for about 6 months, not long at all, but when I was in a holding unit getting ready to be discharged, that holding unit, not only did they pay us, pay for our health care, pay for everything, our job, because they didn't have anything else for us to do, we were operated out of a 3-story barracks building. So it's like a big dorm. We would strip the first floor on Monday and wax it. On Tuesday, we'd go up to the second floor, strip it and wax it. On Thursday or Wednesday, we'd go up to the third floor and do it. On Thursday, we'd go back down to the first floor and do it again. Yeah, it's so stupid. Like maybe that needs to be done once a month, once a year, maybe.
Yeah,
but
if that.
And that's just an example. Like they waste so much money.
And I think that's going to happen when you get to a point of how big something is like that.
No, I disagree. Look at Amazon.
I think
look how efficient they are.
Yeah, well. Amazon, I don't know if they're the best one to look at because they're like.
Look at Apple. Yeah. Those are the two biggest companies. Look at the major companies. Look at Target. Look at Walmart. Look at all these major companies. The companies that are ran privately, they are, and if they're publicly traded, they are answerable to their shareholders. Yeah. They have to give their shareholders a profit.
Yeah.
Or their shareholders are going to sell. And the boards can, the board of directors or board of trustees, whatever it is, they can fire the CEO if the CEO is not making a profit for the shareholders. And so they have to be efficient. They have to be as efficient as possible because they have to make a profit. Now, look at the government.
Yeah.
The government, especially the people who are not elected, which is the FBI, they are so grossly inefficient that they piss away so much money. And then another thing is they have a policy that's the use it or lose it policy.
Yeah.
So for their budget, they'll go out and buy something stupid they don't even need, because if they don't, they lose that money. And then they might not get that much next year. So it's like,
well, it's hard to quantify like what within like military or like law enforcement and stuff like that. It's hard to quantify. Like you're saying, businesses have to show profits for their board, like their shareholders. It's harder to quantify what makes the military profitable. You know, like you're not getting profits out of them. Just like with the fire department, we're not profitable.
Right.
We cost more money than we make, for sure.
It's more about, for those public services, it's more about, it's not about being profitable. It's about being efficient. So we have a job we have to do, and that's going to cost money.
Yeah.
How can we do that? Do it
Efficiently.
well.
Yeah.
But do it for as cheap as possible and still do it well.
Yeah. See, and I think that's what needs to happen with healthcare. Is it needs to be how cheap can we make it and how efficient can we make it? Because right now it's grossly.
Who's better at doing that, the government or private companies? There's not that should not have taken you hesitation at all.
But
there's
like
no question.
The U.S. government maybe, but then so that's when you start. Hold on, that's when you. No, I mean the U.S. government is not as efficient as private companies, but that's how the healthcare is run in the UK. Is at the beginning of the year, the UK government goes, okay, we're going to need 60,000 prosthetic legs for this year. Bid, and then whoever gets the lowest best bid, that's who wins the contract for all the prosthetic limbs for that year. But that's not anything that we're doing in the US, because ours is how much money can we make. And it's like, I don't care what your product, I don't care that the prosthetic leg is going to cost me X amount of dollars as the hospital or the corporation, because I'm going to tack it on at the end and I'm going to make bukus of money.
Right.
So that's what I was saying by like, our government doesn't do it well, but there are some governments that have better systems in place that will make it more efficient and more cheaper and all that stuff. But
and I get the heart behind it. Like you want to help people.
Yeah,
I get that. But you got to look at it from, and this kind of goes back to the student loan thing too. Like you want to help people, but to help somebody to pay off their student loan, that money's got to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
And what they're doing is they're just printing it. They're just creating it out of nothing, which deflates the dollar. And so now the guy who didn't have student loans, who was smart and either saved up and paid for it or just didn't go to college, went to trade school, whatever. Now that guy, you're taking money away from him. So essentially, like, I'm not a fan of stealing. I think stealing is wrong.
Yeah.
If the government takes money from me to give it to somebody else, that's stealing.
Yeah.
And so I think that we need to limit that as much as possible. Public services, firefighters, police, and health department, like, county
health departments.
County health departments for low income people, like stuff like that. I'm cool with. Let's fund those, but let's make them as efficient as possible. And how do you do that? I think you put the leadership on a bonus structure where, hey, this is your base salary. This is your budget to do this job.
Yeah.
If you can do that, under budget, then you get half of whatever's left over.
Yeah.
That's going to make things so efficient.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I think we're going to keep going into this if we keep going. But I mean, I agree with that. I think like, let's make it as efficient as possible. Let's make it as cheap as possible. Let's do those things, but like, let's do that for the healthcare system widespread. And I agree with you. I don't think that printing dollars and just handing them over to somebody is the correct move. Like, maybe we find places in the budget that we're spending too much money, like make those places more efficient. And then when we have that leftover capital at the end of the year, okay, we can pay down student loans. Like, that's my mentality behind it. Like I said, I've got mixed feelings within the entire bag of like student loan stuff. I don't agree that we should just pay it off. I don't agree this. I don't agree that. But it's like, there are places where I'm like, man, we do need to help people too, though. And doing that, like, money.
One other thing about and then we can move on. One other thing about the student loan deal that frustrates me is that they're paying all this off and still loaning money.
Oh yeah.
Like you,
Like they didn't stop loaning people money and like, hey, we need to
let's
check
fix
things
this
out.
and then
Yeah.
pay it off. Like I don't agree with that either, but that would be better than, hey, let's just dump, however many billions or trillions of dollars at this,
Well, I mean, they're going to get their
but
money
not
back.
turn the faucet off.
Yeah, they're going to get their money back. All that money that they spend this year to give 10 grand to whoever, next year there's probably going to be a spike in
They're going to jack tuition up.
admissions.
No,
Yeah.
they're going to jack tuition up because now they know the government's going to pay for it.
Yeah.
Like government is
The
not
government's going to
efficient.
get their money back
Government
because the
is
government's
evil.
going to get it paid for again.
Yeah.
With all yeah.
I'm very much a small government
Yeah.
guy. But anyway, speaking
of small government,
whatever's next.
this is an idea that I was thinking about the other day, and it scares the crap out of me. Okay. Think about this. You are charged with a crime. Okay. You have to go into a courtroom, and you have to hire a lawyer to come up with an argument to why you didn't do it. And there's another lawyer on the other side that has to come up with an argument that says that you did do it and why you did it. And then you've got like 10 to 12 dummies,
Random people.
your peers. Like this girl works at the freaking makeup counter at Sears or whatever. And this guy's a fast food worker. This guy's a CPA. You've got to rely on those 10 to 12 dummies to be like, yeah, he didn't do it. That scares me.
Yeah.
That scares me so much.
Yeah.
I didn't study law. If I got called into jury duty, I have not studied any laws.
Right.
I don't know anything about the law.
Majority of them haven't. Yeah.
But I now have in my hands either you're going to jail for 20 years to life or you're not.
So what happens there is the judge will basically say, hey, this is what he's being charged with.
Yeah.
This is how the law reads. In order for him to be convicted of this, he has to have done this, 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 and this. You have to be able to say, beyond a shadow of a doubt, yes, he did these things. And then the burden of proof is on the prosecutor to prove you guilty.
I think, though, jury dutying should be a career. I think you go to school, learn law, and then your job is to sit on a jury.
You know why I don't agree with that?
Why?
Because it's making government bigger.
I don't think it should necessarily be a government
It's
thing.
also able
Maybe
to be,
it's contracted out.
it's also able to, I don't know, I just see that being able to, you could corrupt that. Yeah.
But, like, I don't like the system we got now.
I don't either.
I mean, you got like go to Walmart, and as you're pushing the cart around, the first 12 people that you see have to let you off for murder.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bro, that's a scary thought right
Yes,
there.
it is.
Super scary.
Yes, it is.
But yeah, I was thinking about that. I just randomly was like walking, and I was like, for some reason, I was thinking about, I saw a trailer for the old, the movie with Michael B. Johnson in it. Grace. Oh man, there was a book written about it.
I wouldn't know it if you told me.
Freedom. I can't remember. Anyway, it's about a lawyer in Alabama who, like, his entire career was devoted to getting people off of death row that he thought didn't belong there.
Oh, that's cool.
Because of like whatever had happened and stuff. And I was sitting there like just remembering the book. I was like, how many of these like people weren't even in the same city when the murder occurred?
Right.
But then got convicted and were in prison for life.
Yeah.
And I was just like, dude, that could happen to me. And I was like, I got to rely on these people? I was like, no, thank you. Like, it scared the bejesus out of me for like a second.
Yeah. You know what's cool, though? It's talking about, like, if they're out, if the people that were not even in the same city
Yeah.
when that happened. I was talking to a guy I know that's a homicide investigator with the police department. And he said that your phone, they can pull up, like your phone tracks you.
Yeah.
Like they can pull up and they have to subpoena it, I think, but they can say, hey, where was this phone on Tuesday at 3:00?
Yeah.
And if they pull it up and see that you're in a different city, there's a high likelihood that you were with your phone.
Yeah.
So,
but just as easily, some public defender
could say it was somebody else with your phone.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's,
Dude.
yeah, but they can build a case too.
Sure.
It's like, where were you? Like you were somewhere that cameras saw you or people saw you or whatever. So,
yeah. That is a great thing, but there's also like so that reminds me. So this was maybe 6-7 years ago, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
There was a girl that I went to high school that went missing. They still have not found her.
Oh, wow.
Haven't found a shred of anything. They've got security footage of her, I think in Meridian, Mississippi, the night that she went missing. And then that's it. They found her car on the side of the road with her phone, keys, wallet, all that stuff inside of it.
Wow.
And she's gone. And so it's like, you can still get away with stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
You know?
That's crazy.
Yeah. What's even crazier is whales.
Whales are crazy.
Yeah, sperm whales specifically. I saw a video today of have you ever hear the videos where they have like the underwater microphone?
Yeah, and it's like
yeah, but they have the clicks too.
Yeah.
Those little clicks. Did you know that whale can be 500 miles away
and you're still hearing
the clicks?
Really?
They are the largest animal on the planet, and those clicks are so loud that if you were this close to it, it would shatter all your organs.
Oh my gosh.
That's how loud that click is.
Jeez.
Yeah. Dude, can you imagine?
So sperm whales are pretty dangerous.
Yeah. They're very dangerous. Like they can kill you with just a click because it's so the concussive force of that click.
Jeez.
Hey,
that's crazy.
Another reason I don't like the ocean.
Yeah. I love the ocean.
The ocean scares the bejesus out of me.
Does it really? You know who is irrationally afraid of sharks? Daphne Jackson.
There's no irrationality to that.
Justin said that she is afraid that a shark will come up in the 13th story of their condo building and get her.
I've seen a girl get killed by a shark.
You've seen that?
Uh-huh. I was about 13 years old. We were in Sandestin, Florida.
Love Sandestin.
And we'd actually met this girl the night before, me and a buddy of mine. We were staying in an RV park in Sandestin. And we were supposed to hang out with them that day. And so we go out and we're coming out of the RV. And then I hear somebody on the phone next to me, and they're talking about something about a shark. And I was like, oh, that must be a joke. Like they're joking around. And then you look out, and she was at the second sandbar. And there's just this thing that's bobbing, and then just probably a 10-foot circle of just dark red around her. And was a guy on a surfboard who went out there, paddled out there to get her, and the shark was still in the water. And actually another guy saw what was happening from the shore and just started swimming out there. And so when he gets out there, the guy was like, hey, the shark's still here. The guy on the surfboard was like, the shark's still out here. So they managed to fight off this shark and get the girl up on the surfboard, bring her back to shore. And then they laid her down on the beach, but she had already bled out completely out in the water. Jeez. When they laid her down, I could see it had taken right below the hip line, the entire leg. Wow. It looked like chicken meat and a bone sticking out.
That's crazy.
And she completely bled out in the water. Yeah.
That sucks.
So there's no irrationality to the fear of sharks. I've seen it firsthand, and I still have and I go free diving out in the Gulf. I go to the reefs and stuff. They've got a bunch of artificial reefs that are really cool now that are 150 yards off the shore that are awesome. If you are around the South Walton, or is that what it is? South Walton? Yeah. There's a bunch of these reefs that they've created, and they're so cool to go snorkel and free dive off of there. And I've seen sea turtles this big out there. So I free dive, I do all this stuff, I surf, but I'm scared to death of the ocean. Scared to death. I hate it.
So if a shark bites the arms and legs off of a guy, but leaves everything else in the middle of the ocean. What's his name?
Bob.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got another one like that.
All right.
That's if oh gosh, hold on. Oh my gosh, what was it? What's a pirate's favorite letter?
R.
You'd think it'd be R, but it's the C they love. Got him.
Why does the Little Mermaid wear seashells?
Because she grew out of her bee shells.
Yeah. But
so I've started this. I want to start this organization. That's I want to talk about eating dehydrated grapes. It's all about raising awareness. They're not making 12-inch rulers any longer.
they're not making yardsticks any longer either.
No. Did you hear about the guy whose coffee got stolen?
No.
He got mugged.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
So
I think that's all the ones I got.
my daughter, part of our bedtime routine with her is we have to tell 4 jokes, and then she tells 1 joke.
Yeah.
And so I always Google the jokes and
Beforehand.
yeah.
Yeah.
Why did the boy throw butter out the window?
I don't know.
So he could see a butterfly. What do you call an elephant? What do you get when you mix an elephant and a rhino?
Elephano.
Elephano.
I got
That's all I got.
so I got one last one, and it's a long one,
Okay.
but it'll be the last thing.
Yeah.
Because you got to
'Cause I gotta go.
Yeah. Okay. So there's these 3 brothers, right? And they all had these bricks that they had found. And there was this mud, and they were like, let's see how far we can throw the bricks up in the air. And they were like, well, how are we going to know how far up they go? Like, we're on the ground. I can't really tell. Like, I can't say I was 10 feet up in the air. So they found this mud puddle, and they were like, well, we'll see how deep it sinks, and then we'll know how high up we throw it. So the first brother goes up, and he throws his brick, and it drops like a half a foot into the mud. Second brother goes up, throws it as hard as he can, and it sinks like a foot in the mud, right? Third brother goes up, throws the brick in the air, never comes down. So there was this lady, right? And she is wanting to go on a flight. She's wanting to see her mom. She lives in Alabama. Mom lives in California. She's got this pet parrot, though, right? And she's trying to find a flight for parakeets, and they're all no parakeet flights. She cannot find a flight that has parakeets allowed on the plane. And so she comes up with this plan. It was like, well, I'll just put the parrot like underneath my shirt, and it'll look like I'm pregnant, and I'll be fine. The bird will be quiet. So she gets on this plane, got the parakeet where her belly is, right? Like, looks like she's pregnant. He walks on the plane, no problem. Gets up in the air, no problem. All of a sudden, the pilot gets up, and he's like making rounds. He's just perusing up and down the aisles, looking, and he's smoking a cigar. It's like, you're not supposed to smoke cigars on an airplane. She's like, I'm going to let it go because, I got this parakeet. Can't just be having the parrot flying around and stuff. And so the pilot walks by her, and the parrot goes, Polly, want a cracker? And he was like, excuse me? She was like, oh, I didn't say anything. Or that was my phone. I was like, oh, okay. And then it goes again. Polly, want a cracker? And he was like, you've got a parrot underneath your shirt, don't you? She was like, no. And then the bird keeps talking, and he's sitting there smoking a cigar the whole time. And she's like, well, you're smoking a cigar. And he's like, I knew you had a parrot. So she lifts her shirt up, grabs the parrot, and he's like, you're not supposed to have parrots on this plane. And she grabs a cigar out of his mouth and says, you're not supposed to have cigars on the plane. So the pilot opens up the window, throws the parrot out. It was like, I told you you're not supposed to have a parrot on this plane. And then so she throws the cigar out of the plane, And she's like, well, you're not supposed to have cigars. And they're both pissed off. She sits back down. He goes back up to the cockpit. He's sitting there and he's fuming mad, flying the airplane. And he hears a tap on the window. And what does he see? The parrot. Parrot sitting outside the plane. What's the parrot have in its mouth?
Cigar.
A brick.
That's
so long
3
for
minutes
not
that
a
I'll
payoff.
never get back.
Not a good payoff.
That's 3 minutes of my
Yeah.
life that I'll never get back. So,
Anywho.
with that,
Yeah.
I don't have anything else. So, thanks for letting us into all your stuff
Yeah, absolutely. And your butts.
and your butts.